Hi there. I'm Marissa. My mom moved her new stepkids into my bedroom and pushed me into the laundry room like I was a burden she couldn't wait to hide. That was just the beginning. I lost my room, my scholarship, even my father's memory, all while smiling for family dinner. Why would a mother do that to her own daughter? What time are you listening to this? And where are you watching from? Drop a comment below, I'd love to know. The door to my old bedroom was shut, locked technically, but it didn't need to be. I'd already learned the unspoken rules of this house. The things that used to be mine weren't mine anymore. The rules had changed. I just hadn't signed the new contract. My suitcase sat by the laundry room door, half-zipped, with a throw pillow perched awkwardly on top like someone had tried to make it look intentional. My mother called it a temporary setup with a smile that felt paper-thin. "You'll have your space back in no time," she had chirped, like this was a hotel mix-up instead of an exile. That was 3 weeks ago. Now I sleep next to the humming of a dryer that never seems to stop, surrounded by Tide bottles and the ghost of who I used to be. I fold my own sweaters next to Vernon's socks. I line up my books on top of the dryer because there are no shelves for me anymore. My old journals, what's left of them, hide behind the mop bucket. The floor creaks differently here. This room was never meant for someone to live in it. But maybe that's the point. The silence here isn't peaceful. It's thick, meant to muffle, to erase. I heard the laughter before I saw who it was. Ainsley, upstairs, in my room. She was showing off the space like a prize. "It's huge," she squealed. "You can fit, like, your whole life in here." I could have told her I already had. Mom caught me staring and gave me that voice. Sweet, weaponized. "She's been through so much, Marissa. You've had that room since high school. You're grown." Vernon added, "It's time everyone makes adjustments." Adjustments. That's what they were calling it now. Not manipulation, not betrayal, just adjustments. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I knew no one was listening anyway. Later that night, I sat cross-legged on a pile of clean towels, trying to figure out which emotion deserved space. Anger? Sadness? I came up empty. Then I saw it, underneath a detergent bottle. My childhood copy of Charlotte's Web, water-warped and crushed. My name, written in careful blue ink, barely legible. I hadn't seen it in years. I picked it up like it was fragile. Maybe I was the one breaking. I didn't cry. I didn't throw it across the room. I just stared. And something in me shifted. This wasn't about convenience, I whispered aloud to no one. It was about replacement. Down here, in this forgotten space with humming machines and bleach-scented air, it finally hit me. I was being written out of my own life story, gently, quietly, like a stain someone was trying to erase. Upstairs, I heard Ainsley's door close. My door. My mother's laugh followed, light and full. I laid back on my cot and stared at the ceiling. Laundry cycles spin. They start the same. They end the same. But sometimes things go off balance. Sometimes things break. The safe hadn't been touched in years. It was tucked behind a loose panel in the hall closet, my father's idea. A quiet, secure place for things that mattered. But when I opened the door that morning, the panel was already off. The lock had been twisted, left half hanging like someone got what they came for, and didn't care to cover their tracks. Inside, everything had been rifled through. The envelopes were wrinkled. The neat stacks of documents shuffled like a deck of cards mid-game. But what stopped me cold was the empty velvet box. My dad's war medal was gone. So was the letter. The one he wrote just days before his surgery. The only one he left behind just for me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I walked into the kitchen where Jeanette was arranging lemons in a bowl like we were living in some magazine spread. "Where is it?" I asked. She didn't even turn around. "What are you talking about?" "The safe, his medal, his letter. Don't play dumb." She let out this brittle laugh. "Marissa, it was clutter. I told Vernon to clean it up. You need to stop living in the past." "He had a medal, Mom." "And?" she snapped, voice sharp now. "So what? You think that medal pays rent?" I walked out before I could say something I wouldn't regret. Or maybe I would have. But I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of watching me break. That night, I lay awake thinking about the letter. I could still see his handwriting, jagged from chemo but his all the same. No matter what happens, remember who you are. What was happening now? It wasn't about a medal. It wasn't even about the letter. It was about control. About rewriting the past so thoroughly that even memories didn't have a place here anymore. And then came the email. Thank you for your interest. Unfortunately, we did not receive your final application packet by the deadline. I stared at the screen, blinking. No, that wasn't right. I'd printed everything. I'd left the signed forms on the kitchen counter, neatly clipped together, waiting for Jeanette to sign and mail. She'd promised. I tore through the trash. Not the outside bin. Jeanette would never let me near that. But the bag under the sink. Halfway down, beneath eggshells and folded coupons, I found it. The whole packet. Unopened, unmailed. I held it in my hands like proof of a crime no one would admit to. You said you mailed it, I said when I confronted her. Jeanette didn't blink. You need to stop acting like everything revolves around you. Vernon chimed in from the living room without even looking up from his tablet. You're always so dramatic, Marissa. I turned to leave. Behind me, Jeanette muttered, maybe this is what you need, a little reality check. Reality? Reality was watching Ainsley study at the desk I'd built with my dad, while my future lay rotting in a trash bag. That night, back in the laundry room, I tried to open the window, just to feel air that didn't smell like bleach and resentment. But the latch was rusted. It didn't budge. No matter how hard I tried, it stayed shut. That's when I knew. They didn't just want me displaced. They wanted me trapped, powerless, reduced. I pulled my laptop out from under the towels and opened it. My fingers hovered, then began to move, not aimlessly, with intent. They think I'll just stay here, quiet, contained. But I've lived in their shadows long enough. The inbox was still empty. I refreshed the page again. Still the same. Withdrawn by applicant. I hadn't withdrawn anything. A cold knot settled in my stomach as I walked down the hall to the shared computer. It was an old thing Vernon insisted on keeping, for house use. I sat down, clicked through the browser history, then into the recovery folder. Ainsley wasn't exactly subtle. Her name was all over the document drafts, fake withdrawal letters, multiple attempts, different tones. Like she was trying on personalities until one fit the lie. One version even started with, due to unforeseen family trauma. I stopped reading. I didn't yell. I didn't go upstairs and throw it in her face. I printed every single file, stacked them neatly, and slipped them into a folder labeled copies. That was the moment something shifted. Not in them, but in me. I stopped waiting to be saved. It was almost peaceful. I wasn't expecting decency anymore, just evidence. On my way back to the laundry room, I passed a framed photo of Dad in the hallway. It was the one from the old fishing trip in Crater Lake, the one he hated because he was squinting into the sun. But I'd always loved that shot. His face open, honest, unguarded. My fingers brushed the frame. Something inside cracked. 3 years ago, I was 16, hiding in the corner of the hospital hallway with headphones around my neck but no music playing. I heard them, my mom and Vernon, talking just around the corner. It's just a matter of time now, she said, like she was ordering takeout. Vernon muttered something about getting the estate sorted. My chest went tight. I slipped back into the room, sat by Dad's side, and held his hand like it could block the future from coming. I never brought it up. I never wanted to believe what I heard was real. Now, I knew better. In Mom's office, I found her old phone in the bottom drawer. She probably forgot it was even there. The screen still lit up. No password. In her photos, an image I didn't want but couldn't look away from. Outside the hospice wing, her hand in Vernon's, smiling. They were already starting something while Dad was ending. It wasn't just me being erased. He was too. When I got back to the laundry room, I emptied my wallet, took out the photo of all three of us on Christmas morning, before the cancer, before Vernon. I slipped it into a drawer and shut it. She wasn't Mom anymore. Not really. Just the woman who taught me to tie my shoes, and then taught me what it felt like to disappear. That night, I uploaded every file, every screenshot, every trace of what Ainsley did to a cloud folder. I named it, Insurance in Case She Pushes Again. As I backed it all up, Ainsley passed the door. She didn't look inside. just hummed some song about happiness and freedom while my world was buried under dryer sheets. She thought I wouldn't know, but now I did. And I wasn't done yet. The attic smelled like forgotten paper and insulation dust. I hadn't been up there since before Dad got sick. The air was thick with stale silence and spider threads that clung to my sweater like secrets refusing to stay buried. I wasn't looking for revenge. I just wanted something, anything, that still felt like his. The photo album was under a pile of Christmas boxes, wedged behind a crate labeled Vernon's Tools. I flipped through the pages without knowing what I was hoping to find, until it found me. A Polaroid, slightly bent, timestamp faded but still visible. My mother and Vernon, sitting at the hospital cafe, leaning in too close, laughing. The date? 3 days before Dad died. I stared at it until the edges of the image blurred. He was lying in room 308, slipping away one breath at a time, while she laughed with a man she once told me was just a family friend. There was nothing friendly in the way they looked at each other. There was history, or maybe a beginning. The betrayal hit like a pulse spike. I wasn't even sure who I felt more ashamed for, him or me. I shoved the photo into a folder and climbed down without saying a word. Later that night, I pulled out Dad's estate documents. It had been months since I touched them. I hadn't had the heart, but now my heart was busy with other things, like rage. Halfway through the stack, I paused. A withdrawal form from the joint inheritance account. The amount was large enough to knot my stomach. The signature beside it? It looked like mine, but off, like someone trying too hard to match a rhythm they didn't understand. I pulled out a notebook I'd signed last year. Compared. Tilt of the M, flow of the S. The forgery was good, but not perfect. I called the bank the next morning. The voice on the line was polite, robotic. Yes, ma'am, that form was submitted in person. Authorization confirmed by your stepfather. Is there a problem? No, I didn't scream. I thanked her, hung up, then sat in the kitchen staring at the toaster like it owed me an explanation. They didn't just betray me emotionally. They stole. From Dad, from me, from everything I'd ever believed a family was supposed to mean. That night, I pulled my emergency contact information from the hospital portal and deleted my mother's name. Just like that, one less tether. I made digital copies of every document, saved them to a new drive, labeled it Legal, Do Not Touch. And I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I drove to Casey's, the only friend I still trusted, and slipped a sealed envelope into her mailbox. Inside, the photo, the bank form, and a note that simply read, "Hold on to this, just in case." When I got home, Jeanette was slicing apples at the counter, humming an old Fleetwood Mac song. She looked up and smiled like nothing had shifted. "Where have you been?" she asked. "Out," I said. "Dinner's at 7. Don't be late." She popped a slice into her mouth and turned back to her cutting board. I went back to the laundry room. Narration plays in my head now like a warning label. I wasn't going to break the law to fight back, but I was done letting them rewrite my story. My mouth was dry when I woke up. Not hangover dry, betrayal dry. That stale metallic taste that sets in when your stomach knows something before your brain does. The night before played in fragments. A too-sweet glass of wine handed to me by Jeanette with a wink. Vernon pulling out a second bottle, just to celebrate Ainsley's scholarship. Laughter. A clinking toast I never agreed to. I hadn't planned to drink. I'd barely eaten. It hit hard, then black. Now, in the sharp quiet of morning, I found myself on the couch with a blanket I didn't remember pulling over myself. The TV still hummed low, some cooking show trying to teach comfort through batter and buttercream. But what drew me up wasn't the screen. It was the sheet of paper on the kitchen table. Legal stationery, my full name at the top, a signature at the bottom, mine, or what looked like mine, power of attorney transfer. I stared at it long enough for the letters to blur. I ran my finger along the ink. Fresh. Vernon had filed it, while I was laughing, blurry, stupid. He'd waited for my guard to drop and moved in like it was a game. My knees didn't buckle, my hands didn't tremble. But something in me, the last brittle strand of belief that they might still feel guilt, snapped. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I took a photo of the document, then folded it and slid it under my mattress like a weapon waiting to be used. 2 hours later, I walked into the office. The energy shifted when I entered. Small silences, sideways glances. "Hey, Marissa?" Casey's voice wavered. She held up her phone. "I thought you should see this." A video. Me, sitting on the hallway floor, mascara streaked, slurring about how my dad's room still smells like paint, and they threw me in with the socks. I didn't recognize myself. The video had been posted anonymously to a meme page for local young professionals. Already hundreds of shares, laughing emojis, captions like, "Laundry Girl's Breakdown." I handed the phone back. Didn't speak. Because what was left to say? They hadn't just robbed me. They'd humiliated me, broadcast my grief as entertainment, and I knew who had filmed it. Ainsley had been the only one with her phone out that night. Back at the house, I didn't go upstairs. I didn't even glance at Jeanette when she passed me with a grocery bag and said, "Rough night? Next time, pace yourself, sweetheart." Instead, I went to the laundry room, sat on the floor, surrounded by everyone else's dirty clothes. I picked up a wrinkled shirt of my father's from the corner, left there when Vernon had boxed his things carelessly. Folded it once, then again, neat, precise. Like I used to watch him do when he packed for deployment. "This will be my battlefield," I whispered, "and I'll fight on my terms. No yelling, no scenes, paper, evidence, law." I opened my laptop, pulled up every file I had saved, screenshots, scans, the video. I started a timeline, every lie, every theft, every manipulation. And then I made a call. Jamie picked up on the second ring. "Hi, it's Marissa," I said, steady as stone. "I'm ready. I need to talk about power of attorney fraud." From behind the laundry room door, I could hear Ainsley laughing upstairs. "They drew first blood," I muttered to myself, saving my files to the cloud. "But I'll end this. On my terms." The screen glared back at me. Dozens of laughing emojis swimming in a sea of digital bile. I scrolled, half daring myself to stop, and then I saw it. The username was fake, but the tone, unmistakable. My mother. She'd written, "Finally, truth comes out." My hands went cold. I clicked her profile. An old photo of our backyard roses from 5 summers ago. Her little disguise. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was loyalty to him, a public alignment, a digital disowning. She didn't defend me. She mocked me. I closed the laptop so hard it echoed off the laundry room walls. There was a crack forming, across my patience, across the stories I'd forced myself to believe for too long. And that's when the message came. "Hi, you don't know me, but I think we should talk. Amanda, Vernon's ex-wife." I froze. My heart punched against my ribs. I clicked. Her message was short, direct. She said she recognized the signs, the patterns, the slow isolation, the public embarrassment, the legal documents signed under pressure. She said she lived it. "He doesn't just ruin women," she wrote. "He erases them." I stared at her words like they were survival instructions. We met that afternoon in a quiet cafe near the courthouse. Amanda was older than me, early 40s maybe, but she looked like someone who'd clawed her way out of something heavy. Her eyes were sharp, kind, but scanning. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were old legal drafts, a restraining order she'd never filed, letters to banks, emails Vernon had sent under her name. "He nearly ruined me," she said, her voice tight. "You don't come out of something like that clean, but you can come out." I looked at her, really looked. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. I felt believed. No caveats, no questions, no justifications. We made a plan. The power of attorney fraud? I'd file a report, backdated with evidence. Amanda's testimony would support a pattern of coercion. The video, the fake signatures, even the bank transactions, they'd all feed into a case. "I never had someone in my corner," she said before we parted. "Let's not let him do it again." I left that cafe with the folder hugged to my chest, not just as evidence, but armor. As I approached the house, a wind picked up. Not cold, but sharp, like something shifting in the atmosphere. I paused on the walkway. Inside, they were probably eating dinner, laughing, as if they'd already won. I placed my hand on the doorknob and whispered, "He thought I'd fold. He He forgot I came from a man who taught me to stand. Tonight, I wouldn't shout, I wouldn't cry, but I would begin. Amanda and I sat side by side in her attorney's office, both of us tense but steady. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder, thicker than the one from our first meeting. Her hand lingered on it before she slid it across the desk. Inside, a copy of a court file stamped from 8 years ago. Vernon's name in bold. The charge: financial fraud, identity coercion, attempted embezzlement. It had nearly landed him in prison, but a settlement buried it in obscurity. "He silenced me with money and fear," Amanda said. "Don't let him do it again." I stared at the ink on that paper like it was etched into my skin. All this time I thought he was simply toxic, but this was planned, systemic. He didn't stumble into destruction, he engineered it. "If only my mother had seen this before inviting him in," I whispered. Amanda looked at me. Or maybe she did, and didn't care. That landed harder than I expected. We left the building as clouds hovered low over Portland's gray skyline. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. Again, and again. Notifications flooded in, Facebook tags. I pulled over, opened one. It was my mother. She'd posted a long public status, her profile picture still the one with Vernon by her side at a barbecue. "My daughter is a selfish ingrate who's trying to tear our family apart. I raised her with love, gave her everything, and this is what I get. Lies, manipulation, betrayal. Some kids are just broken." The photo beneath it was from Thanksgiving 5 years ago. Me smiling beside her, unaware my trust would someday be weaponized. Comments flooded beneath. Some defended her, some tore into me. A few people I hadn't heard from in years tagged me, asked what was going on. I didn't reply. I didn't scream. I planned. My hands gripped the steering wheel. Hard. That night, I parked outside the house but didn't go in. I stared at the rain running down the windshield. It distorted the porch light like a fading memory. She never defended me, not once. I had tried to earn her love the way some people try to earn God's, by being good, silent, obedient. All it got me was erased. Back home, I gathered every document, bank transfers, emails, screenshots of the forged power of attorney, Amanda's court records, even a printout of my mother's post. I drafted an email to my lawyer with the subject, "Let's do it." I attached everything. No disclaimers, no hesitation. Then I added one final line to the body of the email before I hit send. She turned the world against me. Now I'll turn her world upside down. Miss D stirred her coffee twice, then set the spoon down without sipping. Her eyes hadn't left the envelope I'd slid across the table. Inside it, screen-captured messages, bank statements, the photo of my mother and Vernon laughing in a hospital hallway while my father lay dying a few feet away. "This is what she's become?" Miss D whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The silence carried decades of church potlucks, PTA meetings, birthday cards exchanged, and now, betrayal. "She's not just blind," Miss D said. "She's cruel." It didn't take long. Word spread, fast. Teachers she once volunteered alongside stopped replying to her posts. Neighbors gave her driveway wide berth. The school board meeting she chaired for over a decade, canceled. Public betrayal didn't break her, but isolation did. A week later, I sat in my attorney's office as the printer spit out the final draft of the eviction notice. A clean, cruel line drawn in legal ink. 30 days, no extensions, no appeals. My mother screamed when she read it. "You ungrateful little monster. After all I've done, this is how you treat your family?" Vernon said nothing. His eyes scanned the notice like a businessman tallying risk, not grief. I folded the paper and said, "This house was never yours. You just rented my grief." He blinked, just once. That night, I changed the locks, every door, every window. The locksmith didn't ask questions. I didn't offer any. Room by room, I walked through the house in silence. The bedroom that used to be mine, painted lilac by Ainsley, was now empty. The scent of cheap perfume still lingered in the closet. I left the door ajar and moved on. The living room was the last. I stood by the fireplace and placed my father's photo back on the mantel. His eyes looked calm, present, like they were waiting for me to return. "I didn't win just the house," I whispered. "I won the right to choose who I call family." Out the window, Vernon sat in his truck, talking on the phone. I couldn't hear him, but his gestures were sharp, agitated. One hand gripped the steering wheel, the other jabbed the air. I knew that look. He wasn't backing down, he was recalculating. A storm wasn't coming. It had already begun. The next evening, there was a knock on the door. A courier handed me a plain envelope. No eye contact, no conversation. Inside, a lawsuit. Vernon was suing me for emotional distress and abuse of legal authority. Pages of fabricated claims, twisted timelines, and a final demand: compensation or forced mediation. I stood in the hallway holding the pages, heart steady. I thought I'd shut the door on them, I muttered. A gust of wind rattled the kitchen window. Turns out they were breaking windows. The kitchen clock ticked into silence. No more messages, no more reports, no more plans, just quiet. A kind of stillness that comes when the last move has been played, but you're not sure who actually won. I sat at the table, hands wrapped around a lukewarm mug of coffee I hadn't touched. Across the room, the light from the fridge cast long shadows. The house felt different now, not because anything had changed physically, but because something enormous had shifted inside us. Micah walked in. He stood there, fingers twitching at his sides like he was debating something. Then, softly, "It was me." I looked up. "What was?" He came closer and opened his laptop. The tip that got him caught. I sent it. I tracked his habits. He was sloppy about metadata. I flagged the card when I saw the pattern, then sent it through the fraud division's back channel. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. "I thought if I told you, you'd stop me." He turned the screen toward me, showing code, timestamps, even a copy of the report he submitted under an alias. All this time I'd been chasing fire. He'd already lit the match. "I wanted to feel like I could fix something," he whispered, "even if it meant turning in my own father." I reached for his hand. His fingers were cold, trembling. "You did the bravest thing anyone could do, Micah." He broke then, shoulders shaking under the weight he'd carried. The tears he hadn't shed when Derek left, when Kayla mocked us, when the bank froze our future. He let them fall now. And I held him, not as the mom who had failed to protect him, but as someone who saw her son rise. Later that night, I walked into the backyard alone. The air was crisp, smelling of pine and faint smoke from someone's distant fireplace. I let the cold sit on my skin, let it remind me I was still here. We both were. The court date was in 3 weeks. We had a solid case. My lawyer believed Kayla might flip under pressure. Charlene had vanished. No calls returned, no replies. She was a ghost now. I didn't know what the judge would say. I didn't know if Derek would lie again, or if Kayla would show up with a new story. But I wasn't scared of uncertainty anymore. It had lived in my house for months. I'd made peace with it. Micah had asked that morning if he could join the robotics club again. Something about that made me smile in a way I hadn't in weeks. Like life, in its imperfect rhythm, was asking to be trusted again. We weren't starting over. We were simply moving forward. A week passed. Then an envelope arrived. No stamp, no return address, just my name, printed cleanly in black ink. I opened it slowly. Inside was a folded sheet of paper with only 2 words, "Not over." I stared at it, my heart loud in my ears. Her hand trembled as she placed the letter back inside its envelope. Not over. What did it mean? Looking back, I didn't just reclaim a house, I reclaimed my voice. When people you trust silence you, the quiet becomes deafening. But here's the truth no one tells you. Survival isn't just about enduring. It's about deciding when enough is enough and standing up even if your knees still shake. To anyone who's ever felt erased in their own home, you're not alone and you're not powerless. You get to rewrite the story. You get to define who family is, not by blood, by truth, by respect, by love that doesn't come with conditions. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut ties with someone who was supposed to protect you? What did it teach you? Drop a comment below. Type 1 inch if this story touched something in you. Or tell me where you're watching from. And if it didn't connect, I'd love to hear why. Real stories deserve real conversations. If this video made you feel something, don't just scroll. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next chapter. More true stories, more voices that matter.